And this incorporates belief in Allah, first and foremost. And so belief in Allah, فَالْإِيمَانُ بِاللَّهِ هُوَ الْإِقْرَارُ بِرُبُوبِيَّتِهِ وَإِلَاهِيَتِهِ. So belief in Allah, the first of these six, what does this entail? It entails that we affirm and accept and believe in the Rububiyyah of Allah, His Lordship, and the Ilahiyyah of Allah, which is right to be worshipped. Right? So, in essence, this is the three categories of Tawhid. There is al-Rububiyyah, there is al-Uluhiyyah, and there is al-Asma al-Sifat. So the Shaykh goes on to explain the first, and he says, Tawhid al-Rububiyyah, معناه توحيد الله بأفعاله من الخلق والرزق والإحياء والإماتة وأنه رب كل شيء ومليكه. So what is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah? It is the Tawheed of Allah with respect to His actions. With respect to His actions of creating, of providing, of giving life and taking life. And that He is the Lord of every single thing and its owner. So we'll stop on this sentence for a short while, inshallah. Al-Rububiyyah is to single out Allah with His actions. So what this means is when we look and observe into the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, it is clear and evident to every person, every individual, that there are actions which have been performed on account of which there is what there is. Right? This is something very obvious and apparent to everybody. It's from the fitrah and it's from basic reason that when you just observe and reflect, you can see clearly that there is masnu'at, there are things which have been made, and there are ties which have been made between causes, for example, and their effects. Right? So you see chains of causes and their effects, they're all tied together. So at a very basic level, we see the sun, we see the rain, we see the rain descends, we see it gives life to the earth, and from the earth comes vegetation, and from that vegetation there is sustenance for animals, and from those animals there's sustenance for mankind as well as many other things. You see all of these things working together at a large scale in terms of things that we can actually see, and then even on a very small scale that we know through research and evidence that there's even a greater amount of kind of integration, interconnectedness, causes and effects, all of that tied together. And the very first instinct, the very first conclusion that you come to, that this is made, this is intended, this has been, that there are actions which have taken place for all of this to come to be. Right? So this is undeniable. It is undeniable. The issue now is, to whom do we ascribe these actions? To whom do we ascribe these actions? And these actions from the fitrah and from reason, clearly they belong to an entity, a being, a creator, who made the causes and the effects, and He tied them together, and He put in all of that certain wisdoms. Right? In everything there is a wisdom. So this is something which is, no one can actually deny this. It is fitri, it is daruri, it is innate, it is inescapable in terms of reasoning. And you can only do one of two things. You can either say that these actions which we can clearly know have taken place, we can either say they belong to a being who is other than the creation, or you can say, or then you can play lots of like games and tricks and word games and invent beliefs and doctrines and theories, and somehow try to ascribe these actions to the creation itself, right? To nature, to matter, to whatever else. And then you can invent like theories like evolution and natural selection and whatever else to in essence, really, in a simplistic level, what you are doing is like if I said there's this, phone, this phone, at first I can clearly see actions have been performed to make this. So I can do one of two things. I can either say the actions performed that led to this belong to an entity or a being other than this, right? And so it shows that the one who created it exists, and he has knowledge, power, wisdom, will, and so on and so forth, right? This is clear. This is what everybody is going to reason. But what these people do, and this is the trick and the deception and the, which is, they say, well, the only other thing you can do is, to what do you ascribe these actions? Well, it can't be to an entity other than it, because then you affirm a maker. We'll just simply ascribe those actions back to the thing itself, right? So it's like self-creation and self-organization, and no sound, sane person believes that, right? For a simple thing like this, let alone the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, right? So here, this is very simple. We don't need to argue about, okay, what evidence is there for the beginning of the universe and the origin of the... No, we don't need to go there. As Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, right, the existence of Allah is very apparent and very clear from his ayat. It's not needed, it's not a condition to prove that the creation began or the universe began to prove his existence, right? And this is one of the mistakes of the people of Kalam. They operate on the principle or the premise that the only way you can prove Allah's existence is to show that the universe began. And then they have all of these false arguments, false, philosophical, which are flawed, defective arguments that don't even prove that in any case. So the point being that the issue of Allah's Rububiyyah, it is fitri, it is daruri, and it can be summarized as singling out Allah in his actions such as creating, owning, providing, giving life, taking life. And so this is one way we establish Allah's Rububiyyah. Another way, which is a way of the Quran, is by way of challenge, at-tahaddi, which is very simple, that if you believe and you claim that this creation is not created by a creator, and everything that you see and observe, then why don't you create something like it then? Why don't you create something like the Quran? Just like the Quran. The mushrikun, they denied that the Quran is the speech of Allah, a revelation of Allah. So the Messenger of Allah was told to say to them that, if you claim this is from other than Allah and not from Allah, then bring something like it. Bring a chapter like it. Bring a Quran like it. And gather all of you together to bring something like it, and you will never be able to do it. So they cannot bring, and in 1500 years, no one from the Arab and other than the Arab has ever been able to bring something like the Quran. In fact, some Orientalists and some Christians have tried, and a child would laugh at their attempts, in the Arabic language. So likewise here, another method of the Quran in establishing Allah's Rububiyyah is, okay, create something then. Show us what are you going to create. And that's why we see in the Quran numerous verses from them. Aruni ماذا خلقوا من الأرض. Aruni ماذا خلقوا من الأرض. Show me, what have they created of the earth? Now, have they created an ocean? As Imam al-Sa'di says, have they created an ocean? Have they created a mountain? Have they created a hayawan, like an animal from scratch? If you believe that this creation is just, random organization of matter over millions of years, then surely you can do that in a much, much shorter time, in an intelligent, intended way. Then shows, if you really claim. Likewise, we see also, all of these verses are very similar in meaning. Surah Al-Waqi'ah, أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تُمْنُونَ. Do you see that which you emit, meaning of semen, sperm? أَأَنْتُمْ تَخْلُقُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Are you the creators of that, or are we the ones who create it? Very simple. If you believe that this creation is just, then okay, create something the equivalent of, without relying upon it, without taking a sperm, and create it from scratch. Create something like the sperm and what it contains of the material through which a human being is produced. You create that from scratch then. Shows. This is a challenge. Right? Also the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, this now is in terms of life, giving life and taking life. Again in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, فَلَوْلَا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُومِ. So why not when it reaches the throat, meaning the soul, when it's coming out of the person, وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ, and you are there watching, this person is dying, right? The soul is being removed. And وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. We are closer to that than you, but you do not see. فَلَوْلَا إِن كُنْتُمْ غَيْرَ مَدِينِينَ. So if you are not going to be resurrected and you are not going to be held accountable, if that's what you believe, why then تُرْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ? Then why are you not able to return it back into the body then? This is a challenge. When a person is dying, return that person's soul back into the body if you truly believe you are not going to be resurrected. This is a challenge. And they're not able to do that. As for what they claim, from their lies, they say that, scientists have somehow, brought a brain back to life, weeks or so, afterwards. And this shows that, the life can be, all this is false, because when the soul leaves the body, some of the organs, they do have like electrical charge, the heart, the brain. And if you stimulate it in the right way, you can stimulate it to move, and but this is not life. This is not life. This is just the after effects and whatever is left of electrical charge and nerves and things like that. You stimulate them and they'll move. And this is from their deceptions and from their cravings, right? You can't bring a soul back after its death. Likewise, the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ لَن يَخْلُقُوا ذُبَابًا وَلَوْ اجْتَمِعُوا لَهُ. Indeed, those whom you call upon besides Allah, they will never be able to create a fly, even if they gather together in order to do so. Right? So, like a fly that is able to reproduce, they're not able to. Yes, they can mimic. They can create like a mechanical, electrical. But that's not the fly. The fly has many other processes, with it. This is like an attempt at imitation. It's a cheap imitation. And in fact, this is what Allah says in the Quran, in another ayah. Allah says, أَمْ جَعَلُوا لِلَّهِ شُرَكَاءَ. Have they made for Allah partners? خَلَقُوا كَخَلْقِهِ. Who have created as His creation. فَتَشَابَهَ الْخَلْقُ عَلَيْهِمْ. Such that the creation now has become confusing to them. So who are these people? Where are their partners? So what these people are trying to create, of mechanical things. We've created a fly. We've created a robot, right? We've created something with prosthetic limbs that resembles a human. All of this is merely an attempt to resemble the creation of Allah and to pretend to be creators. Why? Because they are unable to create life from non-life. So therefore, this is now like it's a deception, right? And that's why one of their spokesmen and their spiritual leaders and their wizards, this Yahudi by the name of Yuval Hariri, and he has a very arrogant disbeliever, and he basically says that we basically have done one better than God Himself. Because we've done something that God wasn't able to do, we are able to create life from inorganic matter. Inorganic matter, right? And so this is what we are able to do, and this is just arrogance and deception. What he's really admitting here, he's saying that we've been unable to create life, like actual life, biological life from non-life. We are unable to do it. We know that, we simply can't do it. It's not possible. You can't just take chemicals and materials and bring about like a cell, because they've been trying to do that for the past 50, 60, 70 years. It's impossible. It's not possible. So all of this origins of life research and all of that is not going anywhere, and they've admitted it. So all of that's failed. They know they can't do it. So now it's just a matter of deceiving people and saying, oh, yes, we can create life from inorganic matter. And what they really mean is that they can make like a robot and artificial, that's what they mean. This is not life. This is not life. This is not ihya. It is not imata. It's not like giving life and taking life. But it's an attempt to resemble and to deceive people that it is. And so this is the way of the followers of Iblis. Right? This is the way of the followers of Iblis. Iblis, as the messenger said, Inna Iblisa yada'a arshahu ala al-ma. Indeed, Iblis, he places his arsh upon the throne. Why is he doing this? Because he wants to resemble the Creator. Because Allah's arsh is وَكَانَ أَرْشُهُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. And so Iblis is trying to resemble. And that's what these people are like. They try to resemble as if they are the creators, the makers, the givers of life, the takers of life, and they try to portray this to the people. And so, as we said, Inna Iblisa yada'a arshahu ala al-ma, and so this is from the ways that they try to deceive the people, and in reality, as we said before, the atheist is really just a sophisticated, he's a sophisticated fool. He's a fool, but like in a very sophisticated sense. And if you simplify everything right down to a very simple level that the child can understand, it simply comes down to this, right? Any item is indicative of actions which have been performed to make it. And those actions, you only have two choices. You either ascribe them to an entity other than the item itself, right? So yes, actions were performed by a maker, whatever, who has knowledge, wisdom, will, whatever. Or you play tricks and games and sophistry, and you simply try to somehow put those actions back into the very thing itself. Right? There's only these two ways, right? There's no other third way. And that's why the atheist is a mushrik. He's a polytheist, right? He is no different from the people of Wahdatul Wujud. He's no different from the pagans, right? They're the same thing, except the atheist is using his sophistry to avoid worshipping something, and the polytheist is falling into that same thing, and he ends up worshipping that thing. That's the difference, right? But they are actually the very same thing. And that's why in the Quran, when you look in the Quran and the categorization of the Quran of the various adyan, in which Allah says in the two ayat, or in one ayat, that indeed, very those who believe, and those who the Jews and the Sabi'a and the Christians, and those who commit shirk, like the actual division. There's no atheism in there. Because atheism comes under polytheism. It is a type of shirk, right? It is a type of ta'til in which there is where there is shirk. So these people are they are sophisticated fools, and they've been deceived by the shayateen at the top. The shayateen at the top, the allies of Iblis. They know there is a creator and a maker. They know there is Iblis. But they believe Iblis is the one who is the true guide and the true giver of guidance and the true illuminator. And so they worship Iblis. And they know that atheism is false. And they know that only fools believe that there's no order and creation and law in this universe. They believe there is. But they believe that Iblis is the one who is the truthful one, right? So anyhow, to summarize what we said, basically, the Rububiyyah of Allah Azza wa Jal is to single out Allah in His actions. And these actions, they are evident all around us. We see in what we observe of the creation. This is undeniable, right? Of the ayat of Allah, and the asbab, and the musabbabat, and the rabt between them, the ties between causes and effects, and the hikam and the ghayat, the wisdoms and the objectives that we see. All of this is undeniable. The issue now is, who do you ascribe them to? Right? These are actions which belong to Allah, and this is fitri, it's daruri. We don't need to prove the universe began or anything. This itself is sufficient proof. And also in the Quran, there are other methods of doing so, which is the direct challenge. If you believe that there is no Lord, a creator, then show us how you give life and how you can return life. Show us, make something, create something that resembles the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. Create a fly that is able to reproduce. You can't. All you have is mechanical, electronic things which don't have the means to reproduce, and they don't have their own conscience. You are programming everything into the thing itself, and then you're claiming this is, So these are clear evidences that of the existence of a maker and a creator, right? And these are very simple evidences. They cannot be opposed or challenged. So anyhow, this is Tawhid al-Rububiyyah. It is important that we understand these things, because in the current time, in the current era, unfortunately, there are many shubuhat which are taught through education systems, and these issues, unfortunately, they are appearing in the Muslim lands of atheism. You have atheists in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, in Pakistan. There are movements, and that's because these people have been deceived by the ulum of the kuffar, the sciences of the kuffar, and they think that they are upon something, and they are not. So anyhow, just like many in the early part of Islam, when the ilm al-kalam came, as the Sheikh mentioned actually early on in the lesson before, that the books of the Greeks, the Persians, the Hindus, they were translated into Arabic, and as a result of that, many deviants and deviations and false doctrines came. So in the same way, the same thing is happening today. So anyhow, this is Tawhid al-Rububiyyah. Very simple. We single out Allah in His actions. As for Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah, it is the other way around. It is the servant singling his actions out in those things by which they seek nearness to Allah. Right? So this is Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah. معناه إفراده بأفعال العباد. To single out Allah with the actions of the servants, التي يتقربون بها, those by which they seek nearness to Allah. إذا كان مما شرعه الله, when they are from those things that Allah has legislated. So this now means that we single our actions out in directing them to Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-Rububiyyah, singling out Allah in His actions. Al-Uluhiyyah, the servant singling his actions out for Allah. And so this, as you know, things like ad-du'a, supplication, al-khawf, al-raja, al-mahabba, love, fear, hope, reliance, tawakkul, reliance, al-dhabh, sacrifice, making an oath, isti'ana, seeking aid, isti'adha, seeking refuge, all of those things that we know, as-salat, as-sawm, as-zakah, the physical acts of worship, that we single them out for Allah, they are directed to Allah, and then within those actions we are sincere to Allah. Right? So first of all, they are directed to Allah and to none else. And then when we direct them to Allah, within that we are sincere. We're not showing off. We are not seeking the world. We are not, so these two things combined, this is the meaning of directing them only to Allah and singling out Allah in these acts of worship. So this is Tawhid al-Uluhiyyah. And as for Tawhid al-Asma wa Sifat, this is the category of Tawheed that combines the other two. Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat, it combines the other two, because the names of Allah, they relate to either His Rububiyyah or His Uluhiyyah. So Allah is Al-Khaliq, Al-Raziq, Al-Muhyi, Al-Mumit. He is the the creator, the provider, the giver of life, the taker of life, all of these relate to Allah's Rububiyyah, right? They relate to His actions. And then there are other names that relate to His Uluhiyyah, right? For example, He is Al-Quddus, the sanctified. He is Al-Majid, the glorified. He is Ar-Rahman, the merciful, who shows mercy to His servants, so the servants seek His mercy by hope. He is Al-Ghafur, Al-Ghaffar, the one who forgives, the servants seek His forgiveness. All of these names now relate to His Uluhiyyah and how He is worshipped. So the Asma'i was Sifat, the Shaykh explains that it is Tawhid, the al-Asma'i was Sifat is to affirm for Allah whatever He affirmed for Himself, and to negate from Allah whatever He negated from Himself and what His messenger negated from Him of deficiencies and shortcomings, without making tamthil and nor tashbih, without making tahrif and nor ta'til and nor ta'wil. Right, so this is something that we are all familiar with, alhamdulillah, but this is the asal and this is the foundation of the very first thing that unites the Muslims and unites the Muslim nation. And as you can see, starting even just with the very first asal, the Muslims are divided even on this, right? So we spoke about ilmul kalam and usul ad-din to them. So they oppose the messenger, oppose the sahaba, oppose the salaf in terms of what they understand to be usul ad-din. And then even in the Tawhid itself and the kalima itself, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, there is the Tawhid of the messengers, and then there is the Tawhid of, for example, Tawhid of the Khawarij. There is no ruler except Allah. There is the Tawhid of the Sufiyyah. There is no existence except Allah. La wujud illallah. Only Allah exists. The Khawarij, la hakima illallah. There is the Jabariyah, la fa'ila illallah. No one acts except Allah. Allah is the doer of everything. And we as individuals, we do not have a choice and we don't have our own actions. Allah is the doer of everything, right? So all of these are types of Tawheed which are erroneous, incorrect interpretations of the kalima, and these are there out in the hearts of the Muslims, in the minds of the Muslims. How then can they be united? And so this is an evidence that the people who follow the way of the Salaf, they are the true rectifiers and they are the true callers to true, genuine unity. And the asal of that obviously is the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that's why we place so much focus on this issue of Tawheed and continuously teaching the issue of Tawheed over and over and over and over again, because the danger is very, very severe. Anyhow, this is the first asal, which is the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. And after that, very quickly and very briefly, the Shaykh goes through the other pillars of Iman. Al-Imanu bil-Malaika, it means that we believe in their existence. All of existence is divided into two categories, right? This is how the Quran has divided all of existence. It is the ghaib and the shahada. This is the language of the Quran. Alimul ghaibi wa shahada. Allah is the knower of the seen and the unseen. So everything which exists, it is either from the seen or it is from the unseen. And the unseen, the ghaib itself, falls into different types. There is the ghaib which is relative, right? So I'm in this mosque and outside the mosque is from the ghaib as it relates to me, right? I'm in Birmingham and what's in another city in some other part of the world, that's from the ghaib to me because I'm not there, right? This is something that I can see but I'm not there. And then there is the ghaib which is impossible for you to see in the life of this world. You cannot see the jinn in their original form. You cannot see the angels. And there is within Allah's creation things, effects, forces, influences that we simply can never see or detect. All of this is from the ghaib. So in Allah's creation there is in the creation, but also the whole of existence. There is the ghaib. So Allah Azza wa Jal, we cannot see Allah Azza wa Jal, and there is the shahada. So from the ghaib are things like the angels, the jinn, the barzakh, what happens therein, the realm of the soul. We can't really see any of that. So the angels, they exist. We believe in their existence and that they are a creation from the creation of Allah. خَلَقَهُم مِّن نُور. They are created from light, and He created them to worship Him, firstly, and to fulfill His commands in the creation. So the functioning of the creation, underlying it are angels. And He mentions ayah in the Quran, بَلْ عِبَادٌ مُكْرَمُونَ لَا يَسْبِقُونَهُ بِالْقَوْلِ وَهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِ يَعْمَلُونَ. They are noble servants. They do not precede Him in speech, and they fulfill His commands. So this is in general, we believe in the angels in a general sense, and then all of the specific details as and when they come to us by way of reports and narrations. The third one, wal-Iman bil-Kutub, belief in the books. So again, we believe in them. We believe what they contain of al-Huda wa-Nur, of guidance and light, that Allah Azza wa Jal revealed them as guidance to mankind. And the greatest of those books is al-Tawrat, wal-Injil, wal-Quran. So the Tawrat is the Tawrat of Musa alayhi salam. Within there is guidance, within there is law. And Isa alayhi salam, he brought the Injil. In the Injil, he rectified or corrected, what the Yahud had changed and altered and distorted of the law. And he also brought a bashara, like a glad tidings of a messenger to come. So Isa alayhi salam is in between, of a messenger to come who will then complete what Isa alayhi salam did not complete, which is to bring and also to inform Bani Israel that this risala is going to the Arab. And this is why they rejected the Messenger because of arrogance and pride. So, and then after that, the Injil is the Quran. And the Quran is the greatest of these three. It is the greatest miracle. And the Shaykh mentions the ayah, قُلْ لَئِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ لَئِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ على أن يأتوا بمثل هذا القرآن لا يأتون بمثله ولو كان بعضهم لبعضهم ظهيرا. Say, if the jinn and the men were to gather together to bring the likes of this Quran, they would not be able to bring the likes of this Quran, even if some of them were aiders and helpers of each other. Then the Shaykh goes on to mention about the Quran itself, that we believe as Ahlul Sunnah, it is the kalam of Allah, it is the spoken word of Allah. Allah spoke this Quran, and Allah spoke it with letters and voice, and this is opposed to the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila. They say the Quran is a created thing. The words of the Quran, the letters of the Quran, the meanings of the Quran, all of it is created. And the Kullabiyya and the Ash'ariyya, they say that Allah's speech is only the meaning, it's the ma'na. But as for the Arabic words, that is something created. Right? So they made this distinction between the ma'na and the lafz. Right? And they said the kalam is only the ma'na. And this is false in the Arabic language. In the Arabic language, kalam is the ma'na and the lafz together. This is what is known as kalam in the language of the Arabs. And so they opposed, this. They brought this innovation, and they brought something that none of the Sahaba or the Salaf spoke of, and they made this distinction. And the Shaykh mentions that these are false statements. He mentions some ayat from the Quran. وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرْهُ وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرْهُ حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ. If one of the mushrikeen, they seek protection from you, then give him protection, meaning during war, so that he can listen to the speech of Allah. Right? So he listens to it by way of a reciter. The one who's reciting, it is his voice which is heard, but the words which are conveyed by that voice are the words which Allah spoke. Right? So the words are the speech of Allah. but the voice that's conveying them is the speech of the reciter. Very clear. And so the Shaykh mentions that, and he mentions some ayat from the Quran about the speech of Allah. And then he goes on to mention al-Iman bil-Rusul, belief in the messengers, to believe in all of them, and both those whom Allah has named and those whom Allah has not named, from the first to the last of them. And the last of them is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have a belief in the messengers in a general sense, and the messenger Muhammad in a specific sense, in a detailed sense. And he is the seal of all of the messengers. There is no prophet after him. Anyone who believes there is a prophet after the messenger Muhammad is a disbeliever. Right? The Ahmadis, Qadianis, they are disbelievers. They are not from the fold of Islam. And likewise the nation of Islam. They are kuffar. They are kuffar asliyun. They are original disbelievers, right? They are not somehow Muslims who are ignorant and misguided. After that, he mentions that even our belief in the messengers is basically between extremism and neglect. So we neither follow the way of the Jews and Christians who exaggerate in their messengers and prophets, like the Jews did with Uzair. They said that Uzair, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودِ Uzair ibn Allah, right? So they aggrandized him and raised him. And like what the Nasara did to al-Masih, they said al-Masih ibn Allah, that al-Masih is the son of Allah. وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى al-Masih ibn Allah, that the Messiah, meaning Jesus, is the son of Allah. So this is now exaggeration in that side. Nor do we fall short and belittle the messengers by saying, as the Sufis and the philosophers say. So among the Sufis are those who say that there are people after the prophets and messengers, they receive revelation directly because revelation never stopped, and Allah continues to reveal to His awliya. So the awliya, they have a superior status to the anbiya, because the anbiya, they received some revelation, they passed away, they died. But the awliya are living who continuously receive revelation from Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the way of the Sufis, some of the Sufis, the extremist Sufis. And likewise the philosophers, this is generally their view. They say that the prophets were just intelligent men, very smart men. They were very shrewd, they had a good imagination, and they were very eloquent, and they were able to, find ways to manipulate people, right? And make them believe things which were false, but which were good for morality, right? So they invented things like, paradise and hellfire and punishment and reward, but they did it with a good intention. They did it to just scare people and encourage people to live like a moral life and to be good. This is the view of the philosophers of messengership and prophethood. And this is false. And they believe that prophethood can be acquired. You can train yourself, you can eventually become like a prophet. So this is from the falsehood of the Sufis and the Falasifa. So we believe in messengership and prophethood in the right way, in the middle way, opposing the exaggerationists from the Yahud and the Nasara, and likewise opposing and being other than those who belittle from the Sufiya and the Falasifa and other people like them. And after that is belief in the last day, wal-Iman bil-Yawm al-Akhir, which means to believe in everything after the point of death. Right? So al-Iman bil-Yawm al-Akhir includes belief in everything after the point of death, from the point of death. Right? That is the Akhirah. So at the point of death, when the soul is removed, this now includes the qabr, the barzakh, the qabr, the azab, the punishment and the reward and the bliss, al-ba'ath, from the qubur, the bodies being brought out of the qubur, al-hashr, the gathering, al-hisab, the accounting, the weighing of the deeds, and everything that's going to happen till people enter hellfire or people enter paradise. All of that is belief in the last day. And finally, al-Imanu bil-Qadr, which means belief that Allah Azza wa Jal knows every single thing, what is going to happen, what happened and what is going to happen, He decreed that, whether it's good or whether it's evil, and whatever He wills happens, whatever He does not will not happen, and that He loves obedience and dislikes disobedience, and that the servants of Allah, we have ability, we have choice, we have a will, and we are able to choose either obedience or disobedience. But all of this follows the will, the Mashi'ah of Allah. So we neither say that we are outside of Allah's control, Allah's knowledge, Allah's will, Allah's power. So we don't say that, because that's evidently false. Nor do we say that we are completely forced and subdued and forced to do and choose our actions, because that's false as well. Because everybody knows and feels in himself that he's not forced, to eat something harmful, right? He chooses to eat something beneficial. Everyone knows that he's not forced to choose to drink poison. He chooses not to drink it because he knows this is good and that is evil. And so he clearly has a choice. So there's no room for arguing, by way of qadr, and use that to oppose the shara, to oppose the legislation. There's no way for that. And there's no contradiction between that either. And he says, Allah Azza wa Jal refuted the deviance on the issue of al-qadr by the verse, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. You do not will except as Allah wills. Right? So this is a refutation of two groups. A refutation of the Jabariyah, who say we have no will. We are forced to do what we do. Allah is really the doer. Right? However, Allah has said, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ. So He affirms for the servant a will. And then He said, إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Except as Allah wills. This is a refutation of the Qadariyah, the Mu'tazila, those who say that that the servants have their own independent will. They have their own independent will. They choose their own actions. They create their own actions outside of Allah's will and Allah's power. No. إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. So in this way we combine all of these things together, and this means that there's no contradiction between the shara of Allah Azza wa Jal and between His qadr. There's no contradiction between these two things. So anyhow, this is like a very brief discussion of all of the 6 pillars of Iman, which make the first asl, which is belief in Allah and the angels and the books and the messengers. And after that, the Shaykh then goes on to the second asl, al-asl al-thani. What is the second principle now that we must understand and grasp and unite around and follow the way of Ahlul Sunnah in this? It is وَمِنْ أُصُولِ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ وَالْجَمَاعَةِ أَنَّ الْإِيمَانِ قَوْلٌ وَعَمَلٌ وَاعْتِقَادٌ. From the foundations of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah is that Iman is belief and it is speech